Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you once again for joining us here on this Sunday afternoon on Gulfstream Today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Andy Serling, and boy, what a day we had yesterday. Tons of fantastic performances. Obviously, M. Shawish capturing a Grade 1 victory on the dirt this time in the Dawn.
Yep, M. Shawish, that's his name this week, is M. Shawish.
So.
We'll see what he is next week. He certainly has run well at Gulfstream Park. I mean, that's where he's had his most success, and he got it done yesterday in a pretty exciting Dawn. It was a fun race. It was a fun card. I mean, we had a lot of races and a lot of good stakes action throughout the day and sort of thrilling finishes in a lot of the races.
Luke's Alley, Lady Shipman, some really nice performances, but we do carry it on with 13 races on tap today, and we do have some featured wagers and carryover in the Pick 6, so we'll talk about those real quick. With the Dollars Rolling Super High 5 kicks off in race 1. That also does start the early 50-cent Pick 5. As we get into race 8, 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 does kick off. $590,000 in that carryover continues to grow. In race 9, it does kick off the 50-cent late Pick 5. Again, we have a lot of ground to cover, a lot of interesting races as well. I had a bit of a tough time with the Pick 6. Talk us through your early Pick 5 ticket, though.
It's one of these cards where there's not a lot of short prices on this card, so there are going to be opportunities. I'm interested in a horse in the first race, the 9. I'm going to use the 3 logicals with it and 4 horses, and I'm going to go deep in the first to hopefully get to the first leg and go 2 by 2 by 2. 3 horses in the last leg, the 2, 9, and 10, and the last leg is not an easy race. I was happy to see, though, that Ross Durant is running, because after Reggae Boy got scratched in the first race, I didn't want Ross Durant to come out.
It would have been a great exacta,
It really
right?
would be.
I think that would have been.
The name Ross Durant is such a great name.
It is. It's a fantastic name. We'll take a look at the 2 Artefacto, though. This is a horse coming in last time out, did get the victory against Open Claimers, and that was on the 21st of January, and I believe we have a replay.
We do. We'll take a look at Artefacto. And I think the question with Artefacto today is how he's going to deal with some pressure in this race. I don't think it's expected to be a super hot pace, but he was able to control this race, and he kept his chief competition pinned down towards the inside. A very good ride, actually, by Corrales. And it was just a tough situation towards inside him because he could never really get outside because the 3rd horse kept him in, and that was a live horse. But now you've just got some more speed. I think the Mongiorno Johnny's going to show speed, and obviously Right On Ready's going to show speed. How's Right On Ready going to do in this race in a dry track? There are a lot of question marks for the horses. They're the logical horses, particularly the 2 and 6, Gabby.
I agree. I thought Right On Ready was coming out of the tougher races, and yes, perhaps the sloppy sealed track has enhanced his performances as last time. Those 2 races were against Open Company. The last time he did went on a dry track was against Conditional Claimer, so that is something to take note of. But the main reason why I liked Artefacto last out is because he didn't have to face the likes of Right On Ready. So I have to go back to Right On Ready because I think that he is a better horse on or off and off track.
I don't disagree with you. I'm glad to see that you have my horse Keeping It Zeal in the mix, because I can't be completely embarrassed on an island when this horse doesn't run well. But obviously, I'm assuming you saw the same things as I did. This is a horse that his last 2 starts, he got sloppy tracks. He's not a sloppy track horse. If you look at the last 2 dry dirt races by him, he ran races that are easily good enough to win this race, even the last 3 dirt races or more. So hopefully a return to a dry track could wake him up, and he figures to be a square price.
You look at the race on a dry track on the 16th of December, and I didn't think it was bad because he did show speed and then just falter a little bit, but that was against much tougher and probably an unpreferred distance, and now on the cutback on a drier track. I really like him at a little bit of a price. We'll move on to the second race, 6,250 Conditional Claimer, 6 furlongs on the main track, scratch the 2 Arte Latino, and I thought this was kind of an interesting race. We have the 3 Twist and Turn, who off the claim last time out for Eddie Please. Obviously, they did step her up in class and now dropping back down to a more reasonable level.
They did, but it was a modified $6,000 claiming race off the turf, and she was terrible. Eddie Please does a great job, and as evidenced by that maiden winner in his 11th race yesterday, a promising horse. But I don't know what to do with that horse, and I found a stat on the horse that you and I picked on top, and I'm thinking that you and I might have seen the same stat, and just the same feelings I do. With Antonio Sano claiming Dancing My Way, it's good numbers, you know, almost a $2 ROI, a high percentage, and just sort of a barn change might help this horse, and just a reasonable alternative for a horse that before the last race had been running well. thought this was the right other horse. I didn't really want to take the 3 on top after the poor performance last time.
And the thing about Twist and Turn, I can remember after she reeled off a couple of victories on the turf and on the dirt, why wouldn't they step this horse up in class a little bit? And I think now we know why, because Eddie Pleasa did step her up, and she really didn't perform well. So they're getting realistic, dropping her back down. She very well could be competitive. I agree with you, though. I also like the fact that Dancing My Way gets the blinkers on.
Yep.
Visually, it looks like a horse who's going to fare well with them, because sometimes she has closed off the pace, and I'm not saying that she has she's been capable of not finishing well, but I do think the blinkers on are going to make her finish a little bit better.
Focus her a little bit, and the trainer is 2 for 5 off the claim, making a blinker change.
Okay.
Or go ahead, blinkers on.
Race 3, maiden $25,000 event, going the 1-turn mile onto the main track, and we'll go back and take a look at a replay for the 4 Texas T here, trained by Todd Pletcher.
I thought Texas T had absolutely no excuse not to win this race, and I'm not saying he can't win, because he's obviously the horse to beat today, and I'm certainly not going to try to leave him off of my pick 5 ticket, but I thought in watching the race, it sort of made you like him less. You know, he's struggling to get by that horse in the lead, who's struggling, and the other horse catches him. He didn't run badly, but I don't know. It's almost like he waited on the other horse, and the other horse arrived. He let him go by.
It wasn't visually very impressive, was it? He was kind of on the wrong lead, and he just didn't look like he was finishing well at all. Maybe second off the freshening will help him, and maybe they get aggressive with him and go to the lead today. Maybe that's the only way to go. But the one little chuck I thought was interesting. He is listed as a first-time gelding here today, but I thought this horse might have the ability to stalk from the inside, and he's coming out of some pretty decent races. We did see a horse that beat him for the maiden claiming, level 2 back Majev. He's kind of a mid-60, 70 Beyer speed figure type of horse. He has done better going to the turf, but I also think it's a very positive rider change now with Joel. I
agree with everything you said there. And what's interesting about this horse, I feel, and I think you'll probably agree, if we were 100% sure he'd run back to his last race, it feels like I'd single him in the pick 5. His last race was such a big improvement of his other efforts that I'm not 100% confident in him. But I do like, even though he improved the 2 turns, I love the 2-turn to 1-turn turn back, even though not much distance difference. He just seems like the right alternative to Texas T. I think you and I had the same thought. Texas T could win. We wanted an alternative. We found Little Chuck and Carlo Vaccarezza.
The 6 After Cheyenne, I really didn't know what to do with. This horse, when he debuted, it was on an off track, on a track rated as good, and now he's taken a big drop in class. If he showed any speed or anything at all against that field, I probably would have liked him a little bit more. As we saw, Gone Local was a class dropper. Brave Enrique came back to run decently behind If You Snooze, You Lose, that Mike Maker class dropper as well. So this is a horse that I'll throw in on the bottom, thinking he might improve today.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad thought. It makes me think of one of my favorite books, Leaving Cheyenne. You want a book recommendation? You're leaving me this week. Gabby's leaving me this week, by the way. Just me. She's going up to Maryland. She'll be at Laurel for the week. Yep. She will be back, though. I know that you will be bombarded on Twitter by people asking you, what, you're not coming back to Gulfstream? Gabby will be gone this week. Ron Nicoletti will be with me, but she will be back a week after that. Leaving Cheyenne by Larry McMurtry. You should read it. It's great.
Leaving Florida, I am. Coming back soon,
Leaving Andy, actually. That's what it's called. It's all about me.
Yes, it always is, isn't it?
It's all about me.
We'll go on to the 4th race, maiden 35,000 event. Originally carded for the turf, will run on the main track at 5 furlongs. Have just a few scratches in here, and I actually kept kind of my same order here. I had a tough time with it on the turf and off the turf. You land on the 6 Zen Sunrise. Yeah, I have the 3-3rd. I know that he ran a little better than I thought he would last time, but even the slot might have helped him. At least the 6 Zen Sunrise is more of a dirt type horse for these connections, and I just thought it was a logical horse. I moved the 11 Big City Heart. I'm not sure Big City Heart isn't kind of helped by it coming off the turf, even though he ran some better races on the turf. All in all, relative to this field, you look at his first race, and especially his first race, the figure makes him very competitive in this race, and Gary Bain riding. So God, Gary Bain, I mean, he was riding when I was down here 20 years ago. Well, good to see him still riding. Looking at this horse, though, do you think that he's going to show a little bit of speed from the outside and give the 6 Zen Sunrise a little bit of run for his money?
We'll see, but that's not a bad thought. He certainly had that speed in the first start, and he might. But keep in mind, it's 5 furlongs. They're going to be running a little bit in this race. Yeah, I don't worry that much as long as it's not too fast. And just let Zen Sunrise the horse to beat.
He does, and again, I liked the 3 fairy tale finish. I chose him on top originally for the turf because I thought he was compromised by those outside post positions, and he very well could run well. He finished third best behind Town Policy, obviously, who came back to really not deliver at 4 to 5 on the turf.
No, it's just, but it's, you know, I wouldn't use that to knock these horses. There aren't that many options here.
Yeah, you have to respect some of those horses that are coming out of the same races. We'll go on to the 5th race, a restricted allowance optional claiming event, 6 furlongs onto the main track. Ross Durant, your horse.
I mean, if anybody at the racetrack, and, you know, I tell you, our best group of fans of the Rostas, the Jamaicans, are just like greatest, and I love this horse. I look at this horse. I wish this horse was running in New York. I could have so much fun. And I remember that we would have Jamaica Day at Aqueduct sometimes, and we were talking about it one day in the show, and I said, every day at Aqueduct is Jamaica Day. On the other hand, I did not pick Ross Durant, though I do respect him in this race. It was nice. He is a horse that seems to finish second more often. You and I had similar ideas. I don't know about you. I had this race narrowed down to 7 of them.
I don't know about 7, but definitely 4. We'll take a look at the 6 Vegas Strip, though. And this is a horse who's obviously coming off a freshening since early December. First time for Reed Baker.
2-back, sorry.
This is a 2-back performance at Santa Anita.
Yeah, I think the race centers around this horse, doesn't it,
yes.
Gabby? Because if he runs back to his good races, particularly this one, he's going to win. But I don't know if you can trust this horse, and I'm a big Reed Baker fan, but his numbers off trainer switches are not strong, and we're going to see that.
I thought this was an interesting move. Obviously, this horse is a Florida bred, and they picked out this spot. They shipped him over across country to run him in this spot. So tactically, I thought it was good. But as you said, Reed Baker, 1 for 23, 4%, and a very negative ROI with the trainer switch in the past 5 years. That statistic made me try to pursue other options.
It scares me. This horse can win the race. It's just the kind of horse I don't want to bet on. And if I turn out to be wrong, and you're right, as a Florida bred, it's a race place to bring him. This is a tough race, and I almost put the 10 on top, Gabby Bold Summit, but man, he's got, even though he lost last time, that last time was the time ring to him at a big price on a wet track to boot.
He very well could, but the off track, he's never really run well on an off track before. That was the point that I was going to make. Now, the other time that he did run on a sloppy sealed track was against a allowance optional claiming company here at Gulfstream. He didn't run well. So the thought process here was, first off, the claim. Did George Navarro really improve this horse that much that we could see maybe an even better performance today on a drier track?
Listen, I'm not discounting the possibility that he'd move forward off the trainer change. I mean, that in a lot of ways, I think that's a much better argument than just the sloppy track.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm second. I'm not. Believe me, I almost put him on top. I just decided not to put him on top. And I thought Niche was interesting. He did have the trouble at the start last time, accounting for his bad performance against worse horses. Castellano sticks, so you feel like Javi probably feels like he had a legitimate excuse, because if that's just the race, Javi might have said, I don't need to ride this horse back. His race 2 back was good enough to be competitive. I thought he was the right alternative to 10, but I'm not going to argue with a whole lot of horses in this race.
The 9 Never Give In. This is another horse who cuts back from the 7 furlongs last time out. He's been facing similar company. He very well could win today as well. He just needs to get in the game a little bit, but he's been very consistent against similar company. And you have a horse like this that if the 10 Bold Summit doesn't run back to his last race, if Vegas Strip doesn't do well here, he could very well inherit this race.
He could. I don't like how he hung against Ross Durant a couple races back, races that he looked like he was going to win.
We'll move on to the 6th race, a 16,000 non-winners, a 2 lifetime event, 7.5 furlongs onto the turf course. And taking a look at this field, we have a replay back on the 13th of January that Zeus and Kemet come out.
Yeah, I want to show a couple of things about this race. First, I want to talk about, now, Zeus is the 13. So keep in mind that Zeus is going to be caught 5 wide on the first turn. And Zeus had a nightmare trip in this race. I don't think there's anything Joe Bravo could have done. Now, Kemet is the 1 horse, and it's interesting. Doesn't come out that sharply. It's not like he got left, but doesn't have that speed, but then rushes up between horses. And you see the green going through between horses, and you see Zeus getting caught super wide out there, losing all position. And now you see Kemet has to force his way through horses. In today's race, there's not a lot of speed on paper. Now, I don't know if Kemet, now, you're not supposed to get in a duel with Kemet because he's been faint-hearted. But he has one turf race that's pretty good, and it's a less contentious pace. And I actually thought he ran okay in this race because he's fighting it out early, and this was a race that came apart towards the end. Now, Seuss is going to get hung out super wide. He's not in the picture at this point, Gabby, but Seuss is going to get completely taken out of the race, and now he draws post 1. The problem with Seuss is he's 4-1 morning line. He's a complete plotter. Well, we've talked about this a lot, and I think you've rightfully said that you've just plotters don't win. And there's Seuss. He's in green all the way on the outside and back. You can see his head coming in, and he's now a good 5 wide already. He's going to get caught way out there. And, you know, Quimet, after the haul that's gone on, he's fighting it out into the top of the stretch and doesn't give away until pretty late. So I actually thought he ran okay, and poor Seuss is just taken out of the race.
So wide going into that final turn. And you make a very good point. I thought Quimet did a lot of the dirty work in that particular race. And I almost wonder if he's on the cutback today to 7.5 furlongs, if he would actually fare better to maybe sit a stalking trip.
Quimet? I would like to see him go to the lead. I think he's. I think.
But then he'll probably
Who is the horse that? Well, the question is One-Eyed Ray going to go out and all that sound? Where they tried it last time and didn't work. So I don't know if they want to do it. I'd be happy to see Quimet in the lead. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see him going 22.45, but I think he can be in front in this race. I'm not sure he's going to win the race, but I thought he was interesting at a price.
Does the drop in class worry you at all?
No.
From 50,000
I actually think he's running him where he belongs. I think that Nick is making a realistic drop with this horse. What is he going to win? Is he going to win a 25-30 claimer? I think he's trying to win a race, you know?
That's a good point. The 7 How You was a horse that I was interested in. This is a horse who completely checked on the backside. He lost his position, then checked again at the quarter pole. He checked at the 3/8 pole. This horse had a horrendous trip last time out.
I agree with you.
On the dropping class.
And he was out in the middle of the racetrack all the way, too.
The biggest question is it going to happen again?
That's part of the problem with him, and I'm not sure how much I trust him, but I agree. His last trip was just absurd. I mean, there's a lot going on. The 11 iPhone addiction, a great name, by the way. This is a horse that had a crazy trip last time, and I think he ran pretty well. There's a lot of things going on in this race. Even El Canguro on the outside. This is a race, it's a good 10-cent super race to spread around and play because it's not going to be a chalk fest.
I agree with you, and I think you take the approach where you either like some of these class droppers, like the 4 Quimet or the 1 Zeus or even the 8 Divine Intrigue, or you stick with some horses who have been competitive at this level who are coming out of treble trips. That's probably one of the 2 approaches that you take to this race.
This is a very, very interesting race.
7th race on the card, a maiden 12,500 event, 6 furlongs onto the main track, and this was kind of a tough race in my opinion. It's always hard to get to these races here, but we'll take a look at the 7 Zachary's Pitch. This is a horse who I thought simply is competitive on the class drop alone and the fact that he does have speed.
Yeah, I had no trouble with this race, actually. You have a, this is not the Rainbow Six. It's hard to keep track when that starts. I just thought Zachary's Pitch could be speed in this race off of its debut. Not really a turf horse. Going to have the lead. I'll take my chances. 7-3 for me. I didn't have any clever ideas.
7-3, Kathleen O'Connell with the 3, Kylie's Kid as well. That said, races 1 through 7, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6, a very interesting sequence, and we'll go through it right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Taking a look at the Rainbow Pick 6. We have a carryover today amounting to $590,000. We have a very nice carryover for the sequence, and we'll take a look at my ticket. I wanted to keep it relatively cheap. I thought that there was one race in the sequence that I have a little bit of opinion, so that's where I'm singling. Can this horse lose? Absolutely. Am I fully confident with the single? Probably not, but I do have an opinion in that race, so I'll stick with it so I can spread in races 8, 10, and then use 3 in the final race as well. Race 13, $57.60. And we'll talk about this first race to start us off, an allowance optional claiming event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf. I don't know about you, but I thought this race was kind of open to at least 3 or 4 horses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the same 3 horses. I think it's just how you separate them. One of my questions was summer reading, and we're going to show Castor's replay in a second. We do have to roll along, but summer reading, 7.5 furlongs, 2 turns, and I was surprised that Jimmy went back to the turf after how well this horse ran in the dirt last time.
That's the reason why I actually picked this horse,
Really?
because I'm thinking that he thought that race was very good. Obviously, this horse's debut performances at 6 furlongs at Belmont were good, and he might think that this horse might be better on the turf. And she very well could just be improving at the right time. A question with her, and I agree with you as well about the 7.5 furlongs. She has to get 2 turns today. She has speed. I'm worried that they can't really get her to settle going 2 turns, and she might just not be able to get it on that alone. But I thought it was a confident move to go back to the turf after that performance on the dirt last out.
She can win. I'm not against her. I think the one is an interesting horse, as you also agree. Silky Girl, a horse that had to just bury down the inside last time. It deserves a chance for Mott and run well for Rick Violet as well. But Castor, I want to show some of Castor's last race. Now, Conquest Dynasty did have a worse trip and came back to win. But Castor, that's not Castor, actually. Castor is all... Where am I with this horse? Why? You know what? I feel like I'm making a mistake here or something. Is that Castor already? No.
That doesn't look like Starlight
that's
Racing.
Not
So
Castor. That is. You know what I did? That's the wrong replay.
yes.
That's what the problem with that one is, actually.
That's not Starlight
That's
Racing.
actually not subject.
So
Maybe I said the wrong date in or something.
We can talk about this race, because honestly, it looked like this filly, going into the first turn, it looked like she had the tendency that she was lugging out a little bit. It almost looked like Johnny Velasquez just couldn't get her to really settle. And it kind of looked like that the entire way. And yes, I think Conquest Dynasty had a little bit of a tougher trip.
She got interfered with in the first turn, while this one was 3-4 wide.
She was wide the entire way around there.
Yeah.
But I thought it was her own doing.
No, I agree. This horse, more... Well, I mean, Castor ran hard the entire way after that trouble. I mean, she just ran after the field and was continuously in a move and still won the race. I do think Conquest Dynasty ran better, but Conquest Dynasty also improved her buyer figure 12 points in a subsequent start. That's a better race than it looks than the 64 she got. I like this horse.
Okay, using a couple of horses to start it off in the pick 6, so we'll move on to race 9. On the card, an allowance optional claiming event, 7 furlongs on the main track, and we do have a late pick 5 ticket.
We do, and it's interesting. You and I have already talked about this race, and this is a very interesting race. And we'll start out with my pick 5 ticket, where I'm going to use the 1 and 3 to start it out. 1 by 2 by 3 by 2. I want a lot of horses on the last race on the ticket. Love to get there, obviously. Love to win the thing. We'll see how it works out. We were talking about this beforehand. This is a question of recency versus layoffs, because you've got the recency more towards the inside, and chip it on out are 3 horses that can all win, but they're all coming off layoffs.
They are coming off layoffs, and 3 Alarm Fire I thought was coming out of the strongest races, and we see statistics for the barn coming off of these kind of layoffs, and we have seen it several times so far at the meet as well. Very lower statistics, actually, what I found. We'll queue up the slate here. Well, we'll do the slate, do the talking, right? I've done enough talking this weekend. 2 for 30, 7%, and a negative ROI with these kind of layoffs on dirt sprinting.
I tell you what, there's a lot of amazing things about 3 Alarm Fire, and I was pointing this to you earlier. You hadn't seen this in the PPs, and I remember it. This broke its maiden on Travers Day in 2014. And beat Liam's Map. That was Liam's Map's debut. Liam Map ran very well that day. But 3 Alarm Fire is a very promising horse. He's obviously got issues. And he may come back, and I hope he does, because he's a good horse. And he might win this race. Toasting Master, another West Point horse inside of him. That horse looks like a speed in this race. Dale's 0 for 11, 180 plus laps in dirt sprints at Gulfstream. It seems like his horses need a race in these spots.
Yes, I thought Roger Rocket actually ran a very good race off the freshening. This is a horse who was semi-competitive against horses like XY Jet and Weekend Hideaway, so he has recency to his name. He draws a good inside post position. Johnny Velasquez is aboard. I think there's a lot of things to like, and that's why I'm singling him. The 3 Squadron A, this is a horse who I very well could have used, but he's 2 for 23, and the last time that he won was on a sloppy track in 2014.
I'm not arguing that. You know, my feeling was I wanted recency. I stuck with recency with the first two. And I was a rocket from the rail. John has to be aggressive with him. I think there's a chance he could be the speed in this race inside. Certainly should get position. You know what I thought about Quadrone? He ran so well last time. I thought, you know, sometimes these horses at big prices run well, and then it's not a fluke. They come back and run well again. And that's the Dale one I want. And I thought the other one might take more money.
My only question with Squadron was, is he going to find someone else to beat him? I agree with you. I thought that was a very good performance, and he's tough, but I had an opinion with the one. I like his recency. I like some of his races he's coming out of, and I don't like some of these other horses off layoffs.
I don't blame you. I mean, for you, it's a difference between these Rainbow Sixes and things. You got to find somebody to lean on. Why not lean on him?
Moving on to the 10th race, a maiden 12,500 event, 6 furlongs on the main track. And I think you and I, in terms of multi-race sequences, had a different approach. I saw this race a little bit more wide open.
Well, we ended the same 3 horses. I only used the 4 and 6 in my play. It's not, listen, the 10 can win this race. I don't love the race. The horse should have won last time out, and it was a sloppy track. I felt like the horse moved up a little bit in the sloppy track. Olympic Smoke gets Lasix in here, drops down, just the kind of horse I wanted in here. I like the turn back and distance. I think the horse will run better, as it only had the one sprint against much, much better horses at Keeneland. Ran a figure that would blow this field possibly out of the water. And Baby Antonella is the only other one I can use. Has had a lot of wet tracks.
She has had a lot of wet tracks. I like the fact that the blinkers go on, and she does go back to the 6 furlong distance, because in her debut against Maiden 25 Company, I thought that was actually a relatively good race. She kind of closed from off of it, and sometimes that's what you like to see, horses that can close at these lower level claimers. The blinkers go on to give her a little bit more confidence today as well. The 11th race on the card, the first level allowance race.
Only 3 left.
We'll keep chugging along here, a mile and a 16th on the turf course. And I thought this was a kind of a cool race. We do have a spotlight replay of Infinite Wisdom and Seeking Alpha coming out of that that October 22nd race.
This is when Infinite Wisdom broke his maiden and beat Seeking Alpha. And I just wanted to return to my normal home for a little while, go back to Belmont Park. Wistfully thinking of those afternoons in the fall, those nice warm afternoons with my friend Jason Blewett on the 3rd floor at Belmont. And this race, Infinite Wisdom was allowed to control, and Seeking Alpha basically just sat outside of him. They didn't go that quickly, and they had the old 1-2 speed number. I think it's possible it'll happen again. We'll see how aggressive Seeking Alpha is. Infinite Wisdom, to me, feels like a horse is improving. He ran against much better horses last time. I thought his last race was good, and I'm kind of thinking I want the 2 speeds in here while respecting Gustinato. I knew you'd have Flatline in there somewhere. This might be a little tough move up, but he's far from impossible.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on all those points. I thought Infinite Wisdom could very well keep the tables turned here today. I thought he put in a really big performance against tough company. Seeking Alpha could very well just kind of follow him home. Last time out, though, you see Bokeelia Island coming out of that race, but again, Bokeelia Island, that horse was meant to win that race.
Yeah, he was compromised by the pace, and I think that Aqueduct turf in December, it's such a weird turf course.
I thought it helped Seeking Alpha. That's why I kind of went against him.
Bokeelia Island. Bokeelia Island's an interesting horse. Bokeelia Island, if you didn't watch, is a horse that broke its maiden for Shug in the Phipps's earlier this week with an electrifying move in the stretch. It didn't come up that fast a race. It's such a good family, though, and a family where the horses have gone, improved with distance and run better, that a lot of people notice Bokeelia Island and talking about it. It'll be interesting to see if that's another one of these horses that Shug improves with time and can follow in his half-brother Point of Entry's footsteps.
Flatline, I don't think he did anything wrong in his first 2 turf starts, so I go back to him today. I know that he is meeting tougher company. He draws a good inside post. We saw Old Sport run and win out of that race, and he was so much the best in this race. He was far wide in every single turn, and even his turf debut at Churchill was visually impressive. So I think he's a horse that I'm going to stick with today.
Gabby picked him that day when he broke his maiden.
I
just want to make sure everybody knows that.
It's very rare.
It's a very good
pick.
pick.
I pick a winner.
It's a very good pick. Join the club. It's not easy around here. I don't disagree. He's a little on the slow side, but I think he has some more upside too than some of these others in here. Gustinato doesn't seem to win, but I thought he was the likeliest horse to pick up the pieces if it gets hot with a 6 and 9.
Okay, race 12, allowance optional claiming event, restricted allowance optional claiming event, 6 furlongs onto the main track. And we don't have a replay for this, but
I didn't want to relive Chat Hill's defeat last time.
Chat Hills, what do you do with this horse? I'm
just wondering the blank page you gave me here to throw me off my game. I don't have a lot of game to begin with. Well, with Chat Hills last time, the 7 furlongs, kind of did her in. She was bearing out badly. It's interesting how the winner had ducked in to go inside of her, but Chad Hills was coming down and the other horse stayed outside of her because she was heading the outside rail. The cutback is going to help her. The problem with her, for me, is I liked her last time, and I'm just loath to take horses that just got beaten at better prices, and she's not going to be that big a price. And I thought the 6 ran against better horses 2 back when she was going 6 furlongs and ran fine to be second. I just liked her as the alternative, and they were my 2 horses. The 10 is, I didn't use the 10 in the pick 5. I wanted to use the 10. I didn't want to make it a $72 ticket, but the 10 is the other horse.
Yes, she's coming primarily because she's coming out of tougher races. These horses, including Chat Hills and How's My Gold, some of them, especially sprinting on the main track, have been more so facing restricted state-bred company, and she's coming out of these tougher starter optional claimers. So again, she was just chasing the speed of Scuba Sue last time out. I thought that the flow of the race is a little bit different. She's meeting slightly easier company, so I used her. You might be able to get a good price on her.
Here was my splitting hairs. I mean, she's on any play, and once again, you're playing multiple tickets as they do in the pick 5. She's no worse than a C and maybe even a B in that play. I wonder if, having been in George Navarro's barn for a long time, then in one race in Bob DeBona's barn, if this is a horse that's going to be easy to keep her into the same kind of form.
I agree with you. That was my main concern, because you come from, and nothing against the current connections, but
Just hard.
It's hard. You go from a trainer that's batting at 25-30% on the year and does very well with dirt sprinters. That's kind of like the MO for the barn as well. So it will be tough, but I thought that she might be overlooked, all considering those factors, and she is coming out of tougher races.
No, she's absolutely can win this race.
The 13th and final race on the card, made of the weekend. The 13th and final race of
the 59th race of the first weekend of February.
Celebrate.
Such a big week that Gabby's once again leaving me for a week as
I know,
a result
I'm going
of this.
to be heading. I'll be cold though.
Big weekend at Laurel.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss the Barbara Fritchie and the General George.
It's going to be a fantastic
It
weekend.
is.
I'm really excited.
I know who's going to win
it.
the General George. I'm not going to release it now, but I know who's going to win that race. I had the winner last year.
Don't uncover any secrets.
I'm reaching back into my bag to show that I'm capable of picking a winner last year's General George.
In other states.
Misconduct, I think? Was that the
Maybe let's focus on South Florida.
Okay, let's go.
This maiden special
I like
weight
horses towards the outside.
A mile and a 16th on the turf. I had an idea with this race, but the 13 Winged Fury that you do have on top, this horse definitely makes a lot of sense. He had tremendous amount of excuses last time.
Well, I think there's a chance she would have won last time. We're not going to show the race because an instant top of the stretch where Ira Ortiz may have put on one of the greatest exhibitions of a rider I've ever seen. I mean, he literally got knocked off his horse and somehow stayed on. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen at the racetrack. And Winged Fury was in a position to make a move to win it after the first race where the horse just didn't run that badly. I don't know how good that race was. I don't know how good she is, but I think she's a little dirtied up. And her last race, she could have won, so I'm using her in here. You know, Love Untitled, I'm going to let you talk about her because she is a very interesting horse in here. I couldn't make her, though.
I remember seeing this filly in debut, and in the paddock, I went in to go look at her because she did open up with some money on her.
Bet off the board in that, and there were a lot of places to go in that race,
yeah,
too.
She was heavily bet, and that was kind of, I thought that was very curious. So I went to the paddock, and I saw her in the paddock, and I was thinking to myself, this filly is nowhere near a 5 furlong turf sprinter. She was big, she drew the rail, she really didn't show up to the game that day. Today with a better post, and in my opinion, a more preferred distance. Is she good enough to win? I don't know, but I think she's going to move so much forward. I looked at her in the paddock, and I thought, I'm gonna pick her. I'm gonna bet her next time out if she stretches out to a route of ground. So that was the opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
I watched it. I watched the head. She didn't run a step in this race. That was my problem. And listen, I mean, you can't. And the thing is, and I think Malcolm Pierce, he doesn't need me to endorse him. The guy's a terrific trainer, but he doesn't win down here. You know, he really doesn't. He's getting ready. He's one of these trainers whose horses are spending the winter in Florida, and obviously it's not saying he doesn't want to win, but it just seems like his horses do better when he goes back to Woodbine. But I hear you, and listen, that horse would be a C. I would not want to be right in other races and not get there.
And she's going to be a price most likely today.
You're not going to get 5-2, that's for sure, in this race. You know, I've got Majestic Smile in there. Poor Graham Motion. You know, I mean, the guys can't win, but I think She ran very well 2 back. How good that race is, we'll see. But last time out, I think that pace might have been tougher than stronger than it looked on paper. A mile and an eighth. I think she's far from impossible. I've liked her other races. There's a lot going on here. Kundre, the 9-horse who you've got second. J. Ray, she won almost $1 million, and this horse has a huge pedigree to move forward.
Yeah, multiple stakes winner on the turf. General Jack, I remembered that horse when I was at Arlington. I believe he ran in the Secretariat. This horse has some really nice turf pedigree. Michael Matz kind of with second starters going to the turf and stretching out in distance, not an overwhelming positive statistic. That's something to take into consideration. I agree with you. I thought this was a wide open race. And we even have the 8 Espresso Time, $1 million horse out of Super Espresso. The mare was primarily dirt. This horse was has been so cold on the tote board for $1 million purchase in her first 2 starts that I kind of had to go away from her.
I think they're getting a little desperate putting this horse on the turf. And, the dam was good. And she's kind of horse that has broodmare value, a Tappet, and the good dam. But I'm just wondering if she can run. And how about the 12? Giada Vegas, who's a $335,000 purchase, a half to 2 turf winners, some good turf, the second family. Christophe Clement deserves to win with one of these debuters in the turf because not only did he get DQ'd in a tough situation, but he's had horses that have run very well and haven't gotten it done. And so this horse is dangerous. There are a lot of ways to go. Todd Pletcher, the 11-horse Candida isn't impossible. This horse is a half to Lucky Pulpit. Lucky Pulpit is the sire of the big horse? California Chrome?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I thought so. Yes, Jay Priven was teasing about that. That's supposed to have to 6 turf winners. So there's a lot going on in this race.
Yeah, a lot. If I could only use 3 horses, I would have easily used at least 4 in there. Again, you even have the 14 horse to the outside. There's a lot of nice turf pedigree in here, and I think this is a race where if you have an opinion, you stick to it. And I just. The name popped off the page to me thinking that she's going to improve with distance, so I stuck with my horse here today.
There's some horses you just have to bet. It's not that you would single it in your multi-race plays. Bye. You're leaving me.
Bye.
Larry's here.
Larry's waiting in the wings. I'm losing my voice.
He's not wearing a tie like he did for Dawn Day.
He isn't.
Sort of
a little
dressed
less
down for Sunday. It's a little disappointing.
He was dressed up yesterday.
Oh, he's got his NBC jacket on to let everybody know he works for NBC. That he's a big shot. Big shot Larry's coming up.
We're going to take a quick break, and Larry Golmes, waiting in the wings, will be up with scratches and changes. We'll be back through all those races, 1 through 13. Nice carryover in the pick 6. Best of luck on today's card.